Hey everyone, it's Thursdays at 3. Your host, Jason Crespin. I feel like I'm way more well-rested this Thursdays at 3 than the past couple of Thursdays at 3. Thank you guys for joining us today, Thursday, April 8th already, 2021, of course. You guys are going to have a great show today. We have an opening, a preview night tonight, official opening tomorrow of our final Adventure Space season. Oh my gosh, Good People. We've been talking about Good People for a long time, and we cannot wait. It's happening, guys. It's finally happening. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Before we jump into Good People, we want to remind you of all the things going on at ALT this week. It's been a busy week. Little dust has settled here and there, but definitely has been a busy, busy week still. Tomorrow, we start back traveling down that yellow brick road. That's right. Tomorrow we have The Wizard of Oz comes back to the main stage. This is our history-making weekend. The Academy doesn't get 3 weekends, but because of it selling so quickly and getting families in, we had some families that would not have been able to see the show had we not added that 3rd weekend. We've done that. So our shows are Friday night, 7:30, 2 shows Saturday, 2:30 and 7:30, and then we close it out Sunday at 2:30. Our seniors are already they're getting all emotional. I've cried like 17,000 times during the whole run of this. Anything makes me cry now. It's so sad. But we want to send a huge break of legs, of course, to our 2 casts. Emerald City cast will be performing Friday and Sunday. That is, of course, led by Hannah Felker there. Hannah Felker as one of our Dorothys. Look at that stud muffin, a little Toto, a little Bentley. He's doing so good. Then, of course, our Yellow Brick Road cast, both Saturdays. There he is again with Mrs. Zoe Parrish. So if you didn't get tickets for that show, so sorry. It's a beautiful show. We've had a blast with it, and sad to say goodbye. Right around the corner, though, they've started blocking rehearsals this week is Matilda. The Matilda cast finally got on stage in the rehearsal space. They've been doing tons of singing and dancing, and now Mr. Allen has gotten a hold of them, and they've started some great blocking. So that show is going to have a quick rehearsal time, but it will get ready to open in May. We've had tons of meetings and different things like that as well. We are well on the way to choosing our season for next season. Thank you all for voting in our place selection online votes, and then of course in person. We will announce that season soon. We don't have everything fully nailed down yet. I'm checking on rights of stuff, but that'll be coming up soon. But who cares about next season, right? We got to finish up this season, and this season, oh my gosh, are we ending it on, y'all? We're ending it on a high note. If you haven't heard, Good People, a beautiful, beautiful, fantastic, well-written play, of course, by David Lindsay-Abaire. We have some fantastic people joining me today. I'm going to take that off so that way we have more room. First off, let me bring in Mr. Brandon Dawson. Hey, Mr. Brandon.
Hello, Jason.
Director extraordinaire.
Oh, I don't know about that.
It's true. It's so good to see you. Whenever I got to see you earlier this week, it was like, Brandon, we've missed you. It's fun hugging you. 2 of your fellow amazing volunteers that have been a part of this show with you are joining us. The amazing Miss Heather Manderson. Miss Heather.
Hello.
And Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick Burns, how are you guys doing?
We're good.
You guys are good people. I don't know if you know this.
Aww.
You are all good people. So they should have really named the show Brandon, Heather, and Patrick. And they'd all been like,
Clearly an oversight.
Yeah. First off, let's talk about how you guys are doing today. How are you doing this week? You're opening. You're having a show open. Finally, it's exciting. Of course, you guys have had. We're going to talk all about the rehearsal period for this and all that stuff. But Brandon, let's talk about you first. How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you ready? Did you sleep well?
I feel great. We're ready to open this show.
Yeah.
This is a cast of incredibly talented actors, and we have had a very tough week. We've had but it's a hell week. Everybody understands that. It's a week of late nights and hard work. But this cast has done everything that I've asked them to and more. And so we're ready to put it in front of people tonight.
Yay! Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. Heather, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very well. Yeah, it has been a rough week, definitely. But but the adrenaline jitters kick in, and that always helps a ton. So I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
so thankful that this thing is actually happening.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You all look all well rested. I don't know if Patrick's like providing coffee for everyone, but you all look like.
I might be providing other beverages, not just coffee.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
How are you feeling, Patrick? I mean, gosh, it's finally happening.
I'm good. I like preview nights and being able to be distracted on Thursdays working. And I just got done roasting coffee, so I'm still downtown in my shop.
Nice.
Finished up literally 10 minutes ago and walked over here and put the computer on. So having a distraction during the day helps me not have to just overthink what we're going to be doing tonight. So that way I can be a little more fresh going into the show. So.
Yeah. I'm the same way. If I had the whole day off and just sitting, I'd be like, oh gosh. So I like to have, even like directing show, I have to stay busy up until the point. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I put too much on my plate and now I'm behind. What am I to wear? Okay, so let's talk about, of course, good people. Brandon, you are making your ALT directorial debut with this show.
That's correct.
Now, have you? I'm dumb. Have you directed other shows, or is this also your directorial debut?
This is my directorial debut as well.
The big, like, huge. Like,
yeah, I mean, I fight choreographed shows
You're about
before,
to push.
but
Push,
yeah, this is
Brandon.
it. I'm pushing right now.
Deep breath. It's gonna be a beautiful baby. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh.
We'll make sure we get you a push present, Brandon.
Right,
Yeah, give me a push present. This one's full term, late, in
Baby.
fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hilarious. For our Amarillo audiences, of course, our ALT audiences, of course, Brandon, well known for his season with Legally Blonde and Sweat and Baskerville and Peter and the Starcatcher, and was a co-instructor for Junior Company for our academy that season. So everyone knows him on stage. Behind the scenes, kind of your vision with the show. How has it been in that director's chair?
It's great. I think it would have been really tough if I didn't have the cast that I have, though. I will pat myself on the back and say I think I cast it very well, because they've made my job fairly effortless. Everything that I ask of them to do, they're able to do it. Any adjustments I need, they go ahead and make them. They've been able to make my artistic vision of the show a reality, and I can't thank them enough for that.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. When you have a great cast, it's just like, let me just point you in the way or in the direction and not get in the way, because they're just gonna take it off for sure. One of our favorites, Jennifer Akins. We're coming Saturday and cannot wait. Our ALT audiences are ready. I love it.
So good to see her.
Heather, for you, correct me if I'm wrong, was your last performance on our ALT stage Mamma Mia?
Was.
Yeah, our sparkly, fun, feathered friend. Me and Heather, we had a good time in Mamma Mia.
We had a little bit of fun.
A little bit of fun. So how does it feel like going back? You're going to be in front of an audience now. Like, how does that feel? And not only in a show, but in good people. Like, oh my gosh.
Overwhelmed. I mean, this truly is a bucket list role. I'd never imagined this would happen. Saw this play years and years ago, and it's just been in my mind ever since. So I'm just thrilled to death to be here. To be back in the adventure space. I love just walking those doors and just that the light and the smells and everything just hit you, and it just I love it. I'm so excited.
I love it too. We shall know Heather originally wanted to play Dorothy in Wizard of Oz, and I was like, sorry, Heather. We got some girls that really want it. And she was like, fine, I guess I'll hold out for good people again. Alicia said Heather was smoking hot in Mamma Mia.
Yeah. Actually, strangely enough, one of my very first musical role, I was 7. I played Dorothy.
You played Dorothy when you were 7?
I did.
Well done. Well done.
I'm not 7 anymore. A couple of years have passed.
I love it. You're like, I'm on. Put me in. Saturday matinee, if both of your Dorothy's are done, we'll be like, Heather, come real quick.
Right. I could back sing like I did in Mamma Mia. Okay. Whatever. Just throwing that out.
I love it.
You might be busy, Heather. I'm just saying, we have a show to do.
Right, yeah.
There is that. So.
Patrick, of course, we saw you last season in your Alta award-winning role in Sweat. You and Brandon got to share the stage there in that Sweat performance as well. Patrick, what does it feel like being back at the Adventure Space about to open a show?
It feels normal. I mean, most of the shows I get to do are at the Adventure Space, and so I think that's a very special place to perform and just to be that close in an intimate setting with an audience. And so that's my preferred venue to be at. But it does feel a little surreal just because there has been so much change over the past year, including just how we had to do the altars last year and getting used to doing a lot of things through video. Thankfully, we've had a year to practice because we did have a director who was also through video for a good portion of our rehearsal process.
Yeah.
But it's great to just be back around a cast, even if we have to be masked for a decent part of it, and just to be able to put a show up again. So.
Yeah. Oh gosh, for sure. And let's talk about that for our audiences who may not know. So Good People was slated to open in November. It was supposed to be the second show of the Adventure Space, and then through different circumstances, it kind of got I don't want to say canceled, but it was like, we're going to put it on hold. And you guys didn't know when it was going to come back or if it was going to come back, correct?
Right.
It was just like, and it was like a week or like maybe a week before you opened. Is that correct? Just whenever, like
about 2 weeks.
2 weeks before.
Okay. Kind of breaks got put, and I'm sure, I mean, all of that work you guys were putting in, of course, bringing in your vision. I'm sure that was so hard for you guys to be like, oh my gosh, I have to push pause now. Like we were, that momentum, it always kind of, I feel like the last 2 weeks of a show is when everything just rushes together. And so to kind of put a pause on that, I'm sure was so difficult. Brandon, how was that for you when you thought, what's going to happen with the show?
Well, I mean, whenever I originally, Alan approached me to direct the show, it was all, timeline-wise, it was all going to work out really well. Because, as you know, Rachel, my wife, is getting her MFA in Florida. And so for all of last semester, they were online because of COVID, but they were going to go back in person for the spring. And so we were going to wrap up the show in November. I was going to, pack up the car and we were going to head to Florida at the end of December. It was going to work out perfectly. And then we got delayed and we thought, okay, well, maybe we can do it at the end of November, early December. Still going to work out. I can still do this, get to Florida. Well, then we find out we have to push it back and back and back and further until finally we push it all the way to April. And then it was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this from 1,500 miles away?
Yeah.
Because we're going to have to put this show back together. We recast one of the roles. We have to get all of that prepared. And I mean, rehearsing from Zoom is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. But I will say, again, going back to the people that I have in these roles are fantastic. Yeah. They were able to roll with the punches and take me, the worst angles possible, sitting in my chair, like lean back, like, am I wearing pants? Who knows? Like, it's Zoom. I don't have to. But they're able to roll with the punches and give me everything that I needed and more. So it ended up working out really well.
And your assistant, Sid, right? She kind of took the reins of like being the in-person person for you. Right?
So she would come up and she would set up a laptop and a speaker and a microphone every night so that they could see and hear me and I could see and hear them.
And then on top of that, it was like, okay, we now have the show that's needing to rehearse when we have so many other things going on with Always a Bridesmaid and Wizard of Oz and all things. So you guys were back in the studios rehearsing, which the Wi-Fi in Studio B is the worst. Worst. Yeah, the worst ever Wi-Fi. We
should look at that.
We should look into that.
Yeah.
Nonprofit ALT. We're just hoping to Wi-Fi that we have in the lobby sometimes. but yeah, whenever Sid was connected, she was like, the Wi-Fi, and we're like, are you in Studio B? Try to go to Studio A because
that's right.
There's nothing we can do.
The difference between the two is night and day.
It's completely.
I bet we can get a sponsor for that next season.
Right, yes, for sure. Patrick and Heather, for you guys, how was it rehearsing, then stepping away from those characters for a little bit, then coming back and trying to remember where you left off and the relationships with a new cast member and different things while your director is in a rectangle of the screen? How was that for you guys?
I'll let you go, Heather.
Well, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
It was tough. I'm not going to lie, it was tough. You should never underestimate how hard it is to relearn something that you think you already know. So, because you won't remember it, or I didn't anyway. A lot of it. It sounded familiar, but that's not going to cut it with words, as I have to say. So, it was challenging. It was very challenging, and then moving space to space, and with the Zoom and all the stuff. But I mean, it was great. It was wonderful, but it was tough.
I can't imagine how tough that was. What about for you, Patrick?
I would say, I mean, the original time we were trying to put it up, there was a lot of start and stops and momentum changes in the midst of just even that short rehearsal process that I never felt as connected to the script and the characters and even the other actors in some cases because of how kind of jumpy it was to try to get things, because that's when case counts were going up. That's when everything else was happening.
Yeah.
So we were being extra precautious at the theater, and we had some people that actually had to quarantine in the middle of our rehearsal process, which made it a little more difficult as well. And so being able to put it away and honestly not think about it for a few months and then pick it back up in January, I was able to come back to it with a little bit more of a fresh perspective. Having a better understanding and appreciation for it, the top-down view from what we did before, but now I could actually dig into more of the nitty-gritty and the characterizations. And I think we were able to pick back up together on what would have typically been like week 3, like of that kind of being gelled together at week 3. We were able to have that back at week 1 again. And so I think it kind of helped speed through some processes for the seasoned actors that have been there. And then we're also able to have a brand new actress that, we're able to help bring up and with that made it better for me, for sure. I can't speak for everyone else.
It's almost like the pause was almost not, I hate to say a blessing, but almost a blessing in the sense of like with November, where we were with numbers and stuff like that, it almost felt like rushed in a weird way, like of just getting it up and hoping that audiences would come, hoping that no one would get sick. And so it's almost like, okay, let's just wait and rest and figure out this whole pandemic thing a little bit better, and then open it with a stronger, not only stronger audiences, but a stronger rehearsal period, even though it was hard with Brandon being away.
Right.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. I have 2 casts in Wizard of Oz. I can't remember which one I told one thing. I can't even trying to remember dialogue and blocking from 6 months later. I'll be like, just do something else now, or try something else. For those of you who don't know, let's talk about the actual show, so that way people can understand what they're going to come see and to get tickets. Of course, this was a play written, like I said, David Lindsay Abair in 2011. It was the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Play, Tony nominated for Best Play, and it won Frances McDormand, a leading actress in a play, Tony. I remember her speech. I think she wore a Levi jacket whenever she won that Tony.
Only she can make that cool.
I know, right? Like,
she can make that cool.
She's won so many things where she literally has gotten the award and just like put it on the ground and been like, now it's my platform, my podium, and I'm gonna say some things. She's like, I don't care about that award. I care about right now about my 45 seconds where everyone is watching me, which she's so cool. For those people who don't know what Good People is, yes, they're probably now thinking it's a play about Brandon, Heather, and Patrick, because you are the good people of Amarillo. What is Good People about? Let's start, Brandon. Tell us what the show is about without giving any spoilers away.
Okay. Good People is about this woman named Margie Walsh, and we get to follow a few days in her life. She's a woman from South Boston, which is Southie. It's this rougher, fairly low-income neighborhood in South Boston, and we get to experience some of the troubles that she goes through, and we get to experience her meeting an old friend and, seeing 2 very different outcomes from growing up in South Boston. And what has really been sticking with me with this show is this idea of luck versus labor. Do we choose what happens in our life, or is it based in luck? We don't have any choice in our life. And I think that this discussion about who the good people are in this play, I think a lot of that revolves around that discussion right there, and the choices that we make in our own lives, and how they affect other people and how they affect ourselves, how they affect our future.
Oh, if that doesn't make you want to come see the show, I don't know what else would. Right? And it's so true about whether it's luck or labor. I mean, so many times people will be like, oh, so-and-so is so lucky, or oh, so-and-so, and it's like, well, they might have worked really hard, and you don't know what they've done to work hard to get to where they're at. Or is there some sort of divine upper, something idea of your destiny and what's supposed to happen to you. Heather, who do you play in the show?
I'm Margie Walsh.
And you, like you said, you got to see the show before. You lived in Boston, correct?
Yes, I did.
Remind me when you lived in Boston.
That would have been 2002-ish to 2004-ish. So it's very funny. One of my neighbors was from South Boston, and she was this salty, wonderful woman that so I had her, I think about her often during this process, but also the dialect, which is, it's tricky.
I was going to ask about the accent. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny story from when we lived there, my oldest son, Jack, had spent, the first couple of his years of his life in the South. And he was very verbal from a very early age. And then we moved to Boston. And so by the time we left Boston, the sort of running hilarious thing was to listen to Jack talk, because he had this combination of accents. And he would say, like, the funniest thing he would say is, "Get in the car, y'all. We're fixing to go to the park."
Y'all.
That's awesome.
All this jumbled, stuff. So anyway,
I'm like, where's your kid from?
Yeah, and it is. I mean, that part of Boston. Boston in general is sort of analogous to Texas in that there are, Texas could really be lots of different states, really,
Yeah.
if you look at the regions. So, and the same could be said of Boston. Like, the areas of Boston are so distinct and so rich in their own individual ways.
So, like, when someone says they're a Southie, people immediately know
Right.
that demographic is something different than another person from a different part of Boston.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the fact that the playwright, I've watched tons of interviews with him, and he goes on and on about, he grew up in this neighborhood, and this is the first thing he's ever written that was truly, from where he grew up, from his hometown. And I think there's something really heartfelt and rich about that. And I've done one other play of his, and it was true of both plays, but every single word is so purposeful.
Yeah.
And like Brandon was saying, there's so many layers to the script. It's just, last night I heard something that I had never heard before. And so I just think that's one of the things that's so lovely about it. When I saw the play the first time, I left the theater and just walked around the block and thought, what did I just see? Like, what happened? Because for days and months, I continued to think about, I would see something that would remind me of something, and then I would think, wait, that reminds me of this, and it makes this make sense. And it's just so beautifully written. And it's about so many things. That's the thing. There are so many little subtle pieces that you can get. So love it.
Patrick, for you, how has that like the accent and delving into the world of being from a Southie and also who do you play? Remind us who you play.
Right. So I play Mikey Dillon or Michael Dillon or Mike, depends on who he's talking to and where they know him from. Yeah. So he was a hard travel kid from Old Harbor in South Boston, and was able to get out, go to college, and become a prominent doctor, and kind of as a success story from Southie. And so that's kind of his characterization and the juxtaposition between Mike and Margie, and then them coming back together and their previous relationship into their modern relationship. It's really interesting, and it's fun to work off of Heather. She's amazing to work with. As far as dialect work, I prefer to be on stage with a dialect. From Sweat last year, to be able to kind of have a Pennsylvania leaning into that kind of blue collar, and getting to do, Irish work with Skull and Connemara.
Even No Man's Land.
And No Man's Land, which was, a little bit more of a posh English, with some Cockney thrown into for my Lois Foster.
A good villain accent in A Christmas Story when you played.
Yeah, that's right. Whenever I got to have this whirly mustache and everything, it was great. My first show with you. So
I'll never let you forget that. Always amazing. I'm like, but he was in a musical once.
And you put me in a child's cape as a villain that didn't even go down to my belt line.
It was a dream sequence.
It was, with a very small top hat. I appreciate that. But no, the dialect work, honestly, it helps me solidify characterization, and kind of change my feel for what's going on. And so I think I have a little bit more difficult time whenever I have my own voice on stage. And so for me, this has been a great process to play around. And I'm not saying my Southie is spot on, because it's not. I mean, it's probably very exaggerated.
Well, Dawson's one of the hardest accents I think ever to do, because it's so specific, like especially Southie of Boston. You know what I mean? It's like, that would be so difficult, I think.
Yeah. And I think Mike slides a little bit depending on who he's talking to, because when he's with Margie and they're talking old times, it's easy to punch into big Southie, but when he's with his wife, it's different and he's not as harsh. So it's fun.
I'm similar. When I talk on the phone with my family, especially or if I'm around them, I slip into more of like the New Mexico Northern accent. And man, when I'm around any one country, I'm like, hey y'all, woo-wee, and yeah. When I waited tables, I would purposely extra Southern my voice a little bit, because Southern accents get more tips, or at least they did with Mr. Jason. Yeah, who knew? Some sort of experiment I think I should do at some point. One of your fellow ALT warriors, Travis, says, hello, friends. Travis. See you Saturday night, and I can't wait to see The Wizard. She's seen both shows. I love it. I love it. Fantastic. She says, see you there. I love it. Awesome. Brandon, for you, let's talk about also who else is in the show. You have 6 total actors, of course. Heather and Patrick are in this show. You have 2 other ALT kind of veterans that have been on the boards before, and then 2 brand new ALT people.
Right. So we have Connie Kennedy, who people know. You can remember her from The Humans.
Most recently,
I'm not sure.
Yep.
And Treva Aller, God, the saint she is.
Love Treva. I cannot wait to see her in this role.
She is fantastic. She is.
Remind me, they're playing basically neighbors of Heather's character, correct?
Yeah. So Treva plays Jeannie, who is Margie's longtime childhood best friend. They grew up together, and they're still best friends now. And Connie plays the character of Dottie Gillis, and she is Margie's landlady.
Remind me, is it Treva's character, or who makes the rabbits?
Dot. That's Connie.
Connie. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
The whole thing about rabbits, y'all can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's her craft.
You know what's
That's her
funny? When I
work.
read the script, I was like, I don't know what these are. Like, until I saw in the fall the wagon that was in the shop with all of them. I was like, that's what they look like. I could not process that in my head of what they were.
We were walking around upstairs looking for things, and I saw that wagon, and I thought, it would be so funny if she just wheels that wagon around full of these rabbits.
Love it. I cannot wait.
It is so funny. Okay, and then we also have Harrison Blunt, who was an Amarillo College student. He got his associate's there, and then he went off to Memphis to get his bachelor's degree. And so he's back here, substitute teaching for theater around town, and I think just getting back and acting as often as he can. He is wonderful as Stevie. And then
he's the
Stevie he's the manager of the dollar store where Margie works.
That's right.
And then, but it's Southie, so everybody's connected through everything. So Stevie's mom was friends with Margie when they were kids, so everybody's connected in Southie.
Love it.
And then lastly, we have Kalila Robbins. Kalila has never acted before. She has never acted in a play before at all. I remember we found her through Heather. Heather said, I've got the perfect person to come and read for this role, and we were needing somebody to play the role, and so this was back in December, I believe. We all met up at Heather's apartment, and we read through parts of the second act, and it was just, it fit. It fit. She's gorgeous. She has some of the greatest instincts on stage out of anybody I've ever seen. I've seen hundreds of performances, thousands of performances. I've seen so many shows in my life. I have never seen anybody who is that good their first shot.
Wow.
And it's just natural for her. It's just natural.
So exciting. One, always exciting to see our veterans on stage again, but it's always so much fun getting new people a part of our ALT family. It's like, and I always feel bad for them because, like, sometimes I've never met them, and then I see them, I'm like, hello, like I'm like the gay uncle that they're like, who's here? Hugs.
Oh, she's a hugger.
She'll smell great after you hug that Mexican dude. It'll be great. But it's so true because I mean, we all like when we see and we're so excited and we can't wait to find out more about them and we want to find out if they, are going to audition for more shows and we just I love that. I love when we get new people at ALT for sure. Carrie says, I love that each time I come, I bring someone new who has never seen the shows with you. This time coming from San Angelo. And of course, all my friends are hooked after seeing the show and I love it. Awesome. That's fantastic, Carrie. We appreciate that so much. It is. It's so much fun bringing somebody who's never been to ALT to come see an ALT show, especially their first show. It's always fun to be like, yep, this is what we have right here in Wolfland. It's always good. It's always good. So for you, and we didn't say she plays Mike's wife, correct?
Yeah, she plays Mike's wife, Kate.
Kate, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. Heather, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but you have had experience with this playwright before. Of course, you played Becca in Rabbit Hole, which was also written by David. Do you find yourself drawn to his scripts more so, or these characters? I mean, I feel like he's such a well-known playwright who really gives so much to his characters with his writing. Of course, Becca was just, oh my gosh, such a strong role. Do you find similarities in his writing when it comes to writing for characters? Is it something that you seek out, when you're developing your character, of looking at his writing?
Sure. Yes, to all of everything that you said. I mean, again, he just like Rabbit Hole, his characters are, I think they're so well defined with their words more than anything. And there are the two that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. The scripts are so beautifully and purposely written, and they're so layered. And again, every word is so purposeful, which is sort of a blessing and a curse because to try to be word perfect, which is the goal with one of his scripts, because the word is so purposeful. Yeah. Like, reading, double checking lines and realizing, I'm saying this word instead of this word, substituting those out and then doing it the correct way. Suddenly it sounds completely different. And that's not always the case, but that's definitely, I have found that to be the case with both of those.
Yeah. Oh, completely. The other works that he's done, or that he's written, that ALT's done, Kimberly Akimbo, which was years ago, a beautiful play about a woman who ages kind of backwards in her body. She's born, an older woman, and then she kind of, or no, that's right. I'm thinking of another thing. She ages 4 times as fast, and so she's like a teenager, but looks like an adult woman. And it's that play was just mind blowing good. I remember thinking, he wrote so well for that female lead, and then of course with Rabbit Hole and then a great other show that he wrote that the Academy did, Shrek. He wrote Shrek the musical, so he knows how to write a good, fun comedy as well. Yeah, a lot of people are like, wait, what? I'm like, that's right. We do some award-winning type of material in the Academy.
Fact about David Lindsay Bear, he's very active on Twitter, and if you reach out to him with a question about a show that you're in,
that was the next question. Yes,
yeah.
Patrick, to you got to ask him a question about
in
this role in the show.
Yeah. So we have a debate about a very important part of the show as a cast about.
And everyone's like, let's take a drink. Okay.
And so I, might have been on one side of the crowd where everyone else was on the other side. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out and just see if he answers my question about how I'm seeing the specific thing about my character. And he responded within an hour.
Wow.
And I told him, hey, we're trying to produce this show. We're trying to do it safely. We're excited to produce theater again during COVID. I understand a lot of things are shut down, but if you have a second, here's my question. This is who I'm playing. Can I get some insight? Yeah. And he responded, which kind of gave me some better impetus into Mike, which was great.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy? Like social media, yes, has its downfalls and different things like that. But 10 years ago, we weren't able to be like, hey, I'm going to post this, and hopefully the playwright sees it and responds to it. I think that's just so cool. Yeah. Also, probably, he probably felt like awesome, like, wow, this theater in Texas is still doing theater in a pandemic and trying to make it work. And not only are they trying to make it work, they're doing my show. and they're asking really good questions about it. So I love that. That's awesome. Wouldn't it be cool if he came and saw your show? He didn't. He's not on the roster.
It's a waiting go.
No, wait.
I was waiting for you to bring him into the
I should
StreamYard
have
right
made-
now, and he pops up.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, I wish I would have made a reservation under his name for like when I saw the show. That way y'all are like, wait, what? Like Joe and Lissa would
No,
be like, Alex made a reservation? I don't know.
You would have made us sick if we would have seen that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Brandon, for you, I wanted to ask, now that you
Mhm.
have done the directing side of it, and of course your show's opening, what do you prefer? You've been acting for so long now. Are you like, oh my God, I love this directing thing, I want to do this more? Or are you like, I am so much more appreciative of my fellow directors, and when I go back to acting, I'm going to give them all hugs after every rehearsal? Or are you going to try to balance both? What's your next steps, do you think?
Acting, always acting. I enjoy. It's where my heart is being on the stage.
Sure.
But I do love directing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the teacher and the instructor in me. There hasn't been a single semester since I was 5 years old that I haven't been in a classroom either as a student or as an instructor. And so it's being a director makes me feel like I'm able to teach still, but
Sure.
teach in a much more active and engaged way, because we're doing something. It's the lab. We're creating work. And so I love that process of it. I love the process of asking somebody to do something, and even if they didn't get it exactly right, how can we then tweak it, and how can I work with you to then tweak it and make it into something more, take your ideas and add them onto mine and make it into something that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that process. I love that
yeah.
process as a director.
Especially when you have strong actors who take risks and want to
Yes.
figure it out, and then
Yes.
you get inspired, and then
Yes.
you're like, oh, and it just builds and
Yes.
builds and builds.
Absolutely. And we're doing this whole thing in the round. So at the beginning of the process, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to block this. And so we just kind of started, and I said, can I have you around this place on stage at around this line, and then just walk around, just to have a conversation. Really. I mean, there's, and I was able to do that with this cast, and they were able to make it look gorgeous. I mean, there's really not a bad seat. There might be like one bad seat, but I couldn't tell you which one it is, because it looks great from all angles, and that's what they were able to do. There are some things that I tweaked here and there, but I mean, I've been telling them this whole week, and it's partly because we've been working on the show for 6 months, but I've been telling them this whole week. We get to the ends of these dress rehearsals, and it's like, I don't have any wisdom that I can impart on you. You guys are playing gorgeous characters. You're telling a wonderful, wonderful, heartbreaking, heartwarming story.
Yeah.
We just need an audience.
Oh, so exciting. And they're coming tonight.
Yeah.
I will say there is one bad seat, and that's through Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gosh, yes. I can't turn my head. I said we should have gotten, I think ALT should have paid for one of those iPads that are like on wheels and I can wheel around the theater. Yeah, definitely should have looked into that.
I was in quarantine for 2 weeks when I was directing It's a Wonderful Life. Thank goodness I had Miss Crystal Burns, because she would set me up. But I was like I kept doing this.
That's what I would do, trying to look around. Man, where'd you go?
There, up there. Yeah, and the audio was just ugh. And then the stage lights, and it was just it was. Heather, you have of course performed in the round at the Adventure Space. I know for sure with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Were there any other shows in the round? I can't remember.
Ruthless.
Yeah. Patrick, have you been in the round before?
I don't think I have, now that I think about it.
No Man's Land wasn't, and
No Man's Land, Sweat wasn't. Then I can't think of any time that I've been in the rounds outside of like high school theater doing a spaghetti dinner with Joseph and the Amazing Technical Dreamcoat. Where we were serving spaghetti as characters in the middle of a show. That was about it. So
funny story randomly, because of your set that you guys had originally, let's call it your fall set.
Yeah,
Your fall set
Fall set.
around, and because the turnaround time for us was going to be really, really quick, It's a Wonderful Life basically used Good People set. Like we were like, I was like, I'll do it in the round so we don't have to do the platforms, and I'll use that wall with the door. And so then that became our set, which was fantastic for us. Now it's a different set. I walked in and I was like, that's not the same wall. That's not the door. It's beautiful. It's
the beauty of having that time to think about things a little more and having that thought of, do we really need it? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, when audiences come, they're going to be like, ooh, I should have dressed up a little bit. I just like chandelier. I don't want to give too much away, but
I think it's one of my favorite things, favorite ways to perform specifically in that space, because it's just so, there's this sense of vulnerability that it's all or nothing. I mean, there's
nowhere to hide.
Right.
And so there is this dimensional thing that happens that I don't know that you always get in the same way in different venues. So I love it.
Heather, I have to ask, is there anything that is your own from your own home on the set? Because I feel like usually when you're in a show, like your kitchen was Rabbit Hole Kitchen, like it was your kitchen. So like, yeah. Are there, even when you're not in the show, other desert cities basically was your house on that stage. In this show, are there pieces of yours that you're like, I just feel like almost that makes you more comfortable about things too, you know?
Yes.
There are a few things here and there?
Multiple things.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it a second time, and on the second time, I'm just gonna make the list of like,
what
that's gonna be Heather's. That's gonna
Although
be Heather's.
Patrick, you have a couple things in this too, don't you?
Yeah, just a couple. I mean, whenever you're putting on a show, I mean, you try to make sure that it can feel as real as possible.
There was definitely a time when y'all's show was in limbo. Most of the stuff was in the shop, and then at one point it got moved upstairs into a separate room so nobody else would use it. But there was a time where I was like, "Do we own this chair? Because this chair should go home to my house." And then Chris was like, "That's my chair. You can't take my chair." Like, well, I like that chair.
Yeah, Mike's office chair is definitely our chair, and there's a few other things.
Awesome chair. Heather and Patrick, you guys have, I mean, of course, done so many shows. You guys kind of have your niche though at the adventure space. I feel like, do you guys just prefer? Do you prefer the intimacy of the adventure space? Do you prefer? I mean, we tend to do more critically acclaimed shows and more recent, plays over there than we do the main stage. Is that kind of like where you guys are more in tune to perform in or at?
I would say yes, 100%. Like I like the shows that have more realism to them. Yeah. That typically lends to adventure space shows. I like the intimacy of having the audience right there with you. It just feels like everyone's in it together, and you can feel their energy, and it helps you as a performer versus being, at minimum 20 feet away from that first audience member, and you're also elevated. And so it just feels more presentational. And the other, which I also have enjoyed doing shows over there as well with the Four and
Best Man.
And Best Man. And so I have had great moments there, but I think the more memorable ones are the ones that I have been able to produce. And I feel like they've been more of a challenging show that typically we have to choose to do over there. I get to cuss more over there, which is always fun to be able to do those kind of actors.
You're like, I get to say these.
I get to say, I mean, whenever me and Caden did Skull and Connemara, he was 16 or 17 auditioning. He was a junior in high school. And when we auditioned, he had to say the Irish version of the F word a lot. And before we got there, he goes, I have to cuss a lot. Is that okay, Dad? It's like, yes, Caden, it's great. I'll be right there with you, buddy. It's fantastic.
That's hilarious.
I know I shade toward those shows.
Yeah. What about you, Miss Heather?
Yes. Really for the same reasons that Patrick mentioned. They do. I love the main stage. I've had fantastic times.
Well,
it's totally different.
Yeah, at the main stage, you've been lucky. I mean, big musicals. Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Miss Mona, of course. 9 to 5, Violet. I mean, that was you've had huge main stage musicals on your shoulders. But then also Virginia Woolf and Mercy Seat, and all these fantastic adventure space type plays. It just seems that you play at the main stage a little bit, but then your heart is at the adventure space.
Yeah, that's very true. The main stage feels like grown up dress up.
Yeah.
The adventure space is where you go get it done. So.
Yeah. That's so true. I love that. I love that. I was thinking about this earlier today. Patrick, do you think we'll ever get to see? We'll find one. There'll be one, I'm sure, at the Adventure Space. A dark, like really like comedy though. Like I feel like you've delved into the drama, and yes, there was some definitely comedic moments in Skull and Connemara and stuff like that. But do you think you'd ever just do like a flat out, full out farce or comedy?
Yeah, I mean, going back into what I've done for LT, I consider, you know, The Foreigner obviously is a farce. That was my kind of foray into that. Obviously, I was the villain in that show.
Yeah.
But that definitely was lighthearted. I just didn't have the funny lines. That was Dakota and Zach and those guys, and Riley, you know, got to carry the fun part of that show. You know, Brighton Beach was that warm, fuzzy family feel that I think is a great thing as a dad, and also getting to work with Ethan Worsham, who was, you know, really good friends with Caden, all growing up in the theater. That was really cool to be able to produce a show with him. And then Harrison also being another one of my sons in that show. And that was his last season as a senior. And I got to be his dad in that moment. So there's been special moments in each show I've been able to produce. And so they haven't all been just dark and broody and dramatic.
True. But I mean, just think, Skull and Connemara, what you got to do in that show, and Sweat, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like, I just want to have a role where Patrick like hugs people and like tell some jokes.
Yeah, there's a lot of hugging and jokes going backstage. That's where all that stuff
true.
is.
Yeah.
After these kind of shows, but you know, getting to do Sweat last year, I think everyone that auditioned for that show was gunning for that because of the timeliness of that show and the message of that show. And getting to work with, you know, Brandon and Brandon and Kissy and there was a couple brands. It was an amazing time. So I mean, Dom was amazing, Derek was amazing in that show. So yeah, I'll probably always want to pick my audition pieces that will be more dramatic, but you never know.
Nice.
I mean, if we do Willy Wonka, who knows if I might actually show up and audition for Willy Wonka.
Perfect. I've had to remind Patrick constantly that this is a comedy, Patrick. This play is a comedy. This play's funny.
A lot of people might think, oh, this is a dark drama. No,
it's a comedy.
There's some funny.
When I read this, yes. Oh my gosh.
This play's a flat out comedy. It's a flat out comedy.
True. Very true. Very true. I think a lot of people think of it as a drama, but it's a different comedy than, of course, Always a Bride.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's not Baskerville. Like, temper your expectations, but it's a comedy.
It's a drama. It's a dramedy.
True. Yeah. It's a comedy where you're like, this is hilarious, and then afterwards you're like, I have learned so much through watching these characters. And isn't that the most important type of comedy where you're like, oh, you can actually learn something? It's not just
very subversive.
Cotton candy. It's not just cotton candy where after you eat it, it's great, but then you still want some dinner afterwards.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I love that. So Brandon, with this show, I'm gonna ask all three of you. Start with Brandon. Obviously, taking out that we, you know, push the show later and taking out the Zoom and all that stuff. What was the biggest challenge for you with this show, do you think?
It's got to be honoring the story of Margie's daughter. That, for me, has been the hardest thing, of honoring her presence in this story and respecting her presence in this story and respecting the story that she tells. She's never on stage.
Sure.
But respecting the story that character still tells and respecting the weight that she still has on the entire story. That's
so true. Yeah, I could totally see that. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Heather, what about you?
I'm still thinking about what Brandon just said.
No, right? You're like,
she's like, he hasn't mentioned that. Do I have to add that?
It's so beautiful. I love that.
You know, we were doing a talk back.
Oh gosh. I mean, I've been so obsessed with this play and this role for such a long time, and again, can't believe it's actually happening. So excited. Just kind of what Brandon was saying, like being true to Margie and finding the pieces of her that are whole, and you know, her physicality was really hard for me to find. It's all been hard, to be honest.
Sure.
I mean, this is one of the more challenging things I've ever done, for sure.
Yeah.
But
you don't
just
leave the stage, kid.
Well, no, that's true. Brandon won't ever let me sit down, leave the stage. For a while there, I had to take the clothes off. Now he's just fine not to do that anymore. But it's just to be true to Margie's story and tell it from her perspective, and because it's such an important story.
Yeah.
So yeah, just finding Margie was, and then how she relates to the world around her, and how she reacts to it, and how she chooses to move around in her world, and it's.
And I would think too, making sure you're not portraying her as a caricature. I mean, it could be really easy to play up the extremes of her nature and make it more of a character rather than a character. And so that there's a fine line there, I think, for sure. But if anyone can do it, Heather Manderson.
That's right.
Patrick, what about you? What about you with the show?
I mean, I think there's two major things that I've been focused on. One was humanizing Mike, because in your original reading of the script and just hearing other people read it and their takes on it, it's really easy to see people in the boxes that it's just the broad paintbrush that they're painted with, versus being able to delve into the intimacies of them and their motivations and why they do what they do. And so really trying to do more of a character study of him and trying to find more of the human element and that, because, there's good and bad aspects to, I think, every character in the show. There's selfishness and there's, complete, giving moments to where they do let their guard down and have something that could verge on the level of sweetness for a moment. And so I think it was in trying to humanize him so I could, see him as a father and a husband and what's going on there, and someone who came from a different place and now is in a different part of his life. So I think that's been a big struggle of mine, was just really to get in there. But once I think I found Mike and was able to put some of my own spin on it, I think it worked better. And then the other part really has been memorization of trying to get as word perfect as possible. Anybody that's worked with me in most shows know that I am a paraphraser, and in a lot of ways of getting the heart of something out there versus getting every single D and in the perfect spot. And the challenge really from Brandon from day one was to try to be as word perfect as possible. And so that's what we're shooting for. Live theater's live theater, and there's going to be, moments where we're there for each other and picking each other up whenever things go up. But, for the most part, I think we all know our characters and we know the story so intimately that no matter what happens on that stage, the story is going to be told and it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
There are so many words. So many words.
God, it's just constant dialogue.
And fast dialogue. And Southeast are just...
overlapping.
There's one monologue in this play, and it's not even that long. Everything else is dialogue that overlaps and interrupts, and it's a lot.
Heather, do you drink in this show as much as you did when you were in Virginia Wolf?
Not as much. There's no way I could. No.
I just remember after Act 1, clear the way. Heather's gotta go.
Yeah, no, I don't. In this, no, for sure.
We do eat cheese, though.
Cheese.
Oh, yeah, only like a couple of bites, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Well, for anyone who still is wondering about the show and whether or not to come, yes, come. Get tickets for this beautiful, beautiful play. Brandon and his amazing actors and production team have worked so hard since early fall, really. I mean, we want to remind you that Good People will be at the ALT Adventure Space. Oh, that's an old one.
That is an old one.
So wait a minute.
Yeah. So we got to go back in time now, guys.
I literally pulled that from the website. I'm going to tell them update Good People. But good thing I have this one. I am. So Good People, of course, April 8th through the 18th. Thursday shows April 8th and 15th at 7:30. 9th, 10th, 16th, and 17th shows are 8 o'clock. And, of course, Sunday matinees 11th and 18th at 2:30. Oh, my gosh. You guys are going to be absolutely fantastic. You guys are going to have an amazing opening weekend. I get to catch it next weekend because, like I said, we'll be one more weekend of Yellow Brick Roading and all that good stuff. But
you guys are doing great, by the way. I've got to see both casts, and it was fantastic to see.
Congratulations on that.
It's been a fun, long, lot of work. I'm so tired. Can't wait to watch the show where I don't have to turn on the lights and lock the door. I'm so excited. But there was something on the website that I loved that I want people to kind of think about when they come see the show. And it said, don't miss this incredible modern play that begs to answer the moral question, is it strength of character or just a few lucky breaks that determines a person's fate? That's what Brandon said. And so that's definitely what I'm going to be thinking about when I see the show. And I cannot wait to see you guys break a leg. Of course, you guys are all going to be absolutely fantastic. Brandon, 7:30 tonight, your water's breaking. We hope it's a good
we're pushing. We're pushing.
Breathe, other unlike pregnancies, go ahead and drink on this one. You'll be fine. And it's just absolutely going to be fantastic. Making your directorial debut, we're so lucky that you're doing that with us at ALT. Coming back this week, I know you had, flew back real quick, got everything up to where you wanted it, and then you'll be flying back out this week. Can't wait to see your lovely, beautiful wife, Rachel. We miss you too. Patrick, real quick, update us. Palace Coffee, Wolfland, when is that?
Yeah. We're still looking. We're shooting mid-June. Just right over there by the theater, right in between both, Adventure Space and the main stage. So, we spend a ton of time up there as a family. So we figured let's go ahead and put a shop close by so we can at least get over there.
You just wanted a shop closer for you to get your own.
That's all it was.
That's really it. And that's also why we put in a cocktail bar too, and the roastery. So that way, all of my loves and passions are within one square half mile of each other, which is great.
It's gonna be great. And Heather, break a leg also. Oh, you guys, break a leg. Cannot wait. I know Heather and I have talked about this play way before it was even anywhere close to ALP, and so I cannot wait. So excited for you guys. Break a leg tonight, guys. Especially from our cast of Wizard of Oz. We cannot wait to hear how great you guys have of a weekend of shows. Get your tickets, everyone. Of course, 806-355-9991. Check out our website, AmarillalittleTheater.org. Again, good people, April 8th through the 18th at our Adventure Space. Oh, somebody asked, I didn't get to this earlier. Carrie said, speaking of that, our masks required to attend. ALT is still practicing our protocols. Those can be found on our website there, COVID-19 protocols. Currently, yes, masks still required, especially with how close the actors are in the intimate adventure space. Seats are assigned for this one. So if you have any seating needs, be sure to let the box office know whenever you make that reservation. This show, of course, is at our ALT Adventure Space. Let me take off that comment. There you go. At our ALT Adventure Space. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic show this weekend and next. Get your tickets before they are gone. You guys all look beautiful. Have a fantastic day. Relax, breathe. Eat a good Boston cream pie or get some or just something. Do something Boston-y. Yell at someone, curse at someone on the corner, and call for a cab or something. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. And we're sending you all our love. And also, a huge thank you from everyone at ALT, not only for sticking out with the show, but for doing the show back in November when COVID was, more extreme, and sacrifices that you guys have made as far as making sure to keep yourselves healthy and all those things. We certainly appreciate that. And you didn't know it was going to be this long of a run, but a rehearsal period, but we appreciate everything that you guys have done, and tell our newcomers, welcome to the family from us at ALT.
Thanks, Jason.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jason. Bye.